Supercoach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are listening to us. This is Insight Fantasy Sport Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Kennedy, and the Supercoach Hawk, sitting here with the big horse, Mickie Dell. How are you, my friend?
Bobby, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Bombers are in the 8s. Get around them.
I'm still just bopping along. Anyone who's watching this on YouTube right now, you hear that intro. I don't know. I really like it. I'm strangely up and about for a Monday. That is when we are recording this. This will most likely drop on Tuesday, along with we will be recording a DPP special as well, as DPPs have dropped. Yeah. This show is going to be more about the round 11 wrap up, no doubt. We'll probably mention some of the names that do have DPP status, but we'll do a smaller one. So if you want a bite-sized version of DPPs, we will be dropping that as well. Anyone who knows me, I am pretty sprightly for a Monday. I don't hate Mondays. For me, it would be like, I don't like Tuesdays. No, I don't like Tuesdays. Why? Mondays, you get to go in the office and talk about all the good things that have happened over the weekend. By the time you get to Tuesday, you don't have as much to talk about, and you're still not that close to the weekend. So, anyways, I digress. How was your weekend?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. We got to watch a lot of footy, had a couple of beers. It was nice. Back to work tomorrow, though, so back to the grind. But yeah, the bye rounds, they've started, and I'm hoping both of us can get 18 on the park.
Yeah, I think I'm looking pretty good. There's a lot of hot news out at the moment. Rory Laird cited by the MIO. You've got Sicily, who's accepted a 1-week ban. Shout out to the, I'm pretty sure it's the SC Godfather on Twitter. I think he brought both those players in last week. It is a cruel, cruel world. Both put up huge scores, but to both get cited and possibly miss a week. What makes it worse is none of their teams actually have the bye this week as well. So I think they've both got one round this week and then maybe miss one. You've got some decisions to make if that's your situation. But we know it's a cruel world, but we love it. We come back year in, year out. It's kind of like golf, let's be honest. You play terrible for 17 and you play well on the 18th. You're like, I've got it. I'm coming back. But look, we'll talk about our teams and the players we have out there. We'll do a bit of a wrap up. And no better place to start than game one, and it is miserable in Carlton at the moment. Not only did they score 6 goals, 15, they went down to Sydney by 26 points. There is a news break today that's come out that there was an altercation with their president and also their director of football, which has resulted in the director of football handing in his resignation. What is going on in blue bagger land?
There's a lot going on, but it's not real good. So the story that's been released is that the director of football had a verbal spat directly after the games in the rooms, in front of the coaches, in front of the families of the players, in front of the families, and pretty much laid it all out on the line.
Wow.
He was then pulled back into line saying this is not good enough. And whether it be a resignation or whether it be that his position on the board is untenable, given what was said during that, is another thing. But my gosh, Carlton aren't helping themselves. And I know I've said that Voss is under the pump and whatever else, and I think that he is, but Carlton should have won. Like, they had 59 inside 50s. They kicked 6 goals, 15. Harry Mackay would not be able to hit water if he fell out of a boat. It was just ridiculous, wasn't it?
Mate, it's really sad. We talked about it a lot in our chat with the boys. I mean, I'd love this gig. It's a great list. There's no excuse. Yeah. There's no excuse with the list. You've got what you want. You've got a two-headed serpent up forward. You've got big high draft picks down your back line. You've got big-bodied midfielders with a pretty decent ruck. There's nothing to not like. I mean, do they lack a little bit in some small forwards? Yeah, they do. I think, what's his name? Young Motlop's showing a bit of promise, but, mate, it's a good list and they should be performing a lot more. But It was Supercoach numbers, and he was an interesting one. So Jacob Wiedering with a 125. Did you hear his interview after the match?
Yeah, how he's it's on the players and not on the coach.
On the players and not on the coach. But he did say we did pretty well down back. I feel like we took some good marks and things like that, but 6 goals isn't good enough. Is that a backman having a little bit of a crack at his forwards? Personally, I think it is.
Absolutely it is. Yeah.
Absolutely it is. I mean, it's factual. 6 goals is not enough, but to me, it was a little bit of a dig. But 125 from him. He actually played strong with he's had a bit of scrutiny on him. Personally, I rate him as a player. Sam Doherty, 124. Sam Walsh, 105. Just keep on keeping on. He's missed out on DPP status for forward, though. Mitch McGovern had to step up and did, 99. I don't mind Cottrell. Did you watch much of the game? He finds a way to get his hands on the ball. He's not a bad player, Cottrell. Chera's going all right with a 96. Sard. Now, a lot of people have put out a few comments about Sard. They brought him in when he was averaging about 115. We were all go for him, showing his numbers without, what's his name down there? Williams?
Yep,
Williams
Zach
down
Williams.
there. Zach Williams.
Yep.
But yeah, he sort of just dropped a little bit off now. And I tell you, the one who is very much on the chopping block for me is one Patrick Cripps. 77. I didn't put the VC on him. I did talk about it on our podcast to put the VC on, but he just didn't have the numbers to back him up. And again, put up a pretty dismal performance.
Yeah. I think it's just players that are just out of confidence. Like when you look at Sard, you look at Cripps, you look at Mackay, you look at Curnow to an extent. These are all players that are really, really good players that are just down on confidence. Like it may only take 1 week and they're back up and amongst it again. That's the beauty of football. But with the way we're looking at it at the moment, with the team missing as many players as they are, like I really like Nick Blakey, and I've mentioned that on the show before, that he's a star of the future, and I had my eyes on bringing him in. But when he dominated the game like he did, he's not at that elite level yet. When you've got Jake Lloyd, you've got Nick Blakey, 2 back pockets. They were playing as back pockets, half backs that were easily the 2 most influential people in the game. Then something's wrong with Carlton.
Absolutely.
And it may only take this week, but they've got some tough games coming up too.
They do. I think they definitely don't look in contention now to make the 8. The 2 you talked about, Jake Lloyd with a 139, Blakey with a 125. Chad Warner, again, showing he has a high ceiling, 112. So he's on that list of high ceiling but inconsistencies for me for 2024. Again, another defender in Robbie Fox with a 105. Will Hayward's one I rate really highly as a player. Hasn't become consistent enough from a Supercoach level, but he got the ton as well. Errol Goulden, 93. I put the VC on him. I think you did too. I think quite a few did. Look, wasn't the worst game. Sitting out on the wing, I don't think his CBAs were very high. They had Tom Papley in there quite a lot for the bounce downs. That said, I watched the game closer. I couldn't help but watch Goulden. Know I had the VC on him. He does put himself in really good spots to get the ball, and there are a couple of occasions where they didn't give it to him. So I'm not too worried about his 93. But yeah, Sydney up and about again, which is good to see. Hopefully people listened to us and didn't jump on early on Mick Andrews. He only got a 23. So hopefully people didn't jump on that train too quickly.
Before we move on from this game, would you believe if I told you that Chad Warner is playing his 50th game this weekend coming? He's still that young.
Third season? So he's in his 3rd season or 4th season? Yeah. So what, has he missed a game? He'd be right up there. He's not missing many games.
He's been pretty good. Like when you're talking about the first 50 games and he's gotten 150s, 160s before. He's around that 100 average at the moment. Yeah. He's someone we need to look at in the future as a potential top 6, top 8 midfielder.
His ceiling is extremely high. I think people are getting a little bit too excited in some competitions naming him for a possible Brownlow chance this year and things like that. No. Look, he can get 3-vote games and things like that. I think he's got to work on his consistency. But yeah, to think, I'm assuming you're going from the angle of he's only played 50. I mean, his ceiling is very high. You're spot on. I love watching him play. And I think he's in the right team as well. I think he's just got the right players around him to bring the best out in him too. So, yeah.
It's a good system.
He's great to watch. Fantastic. Did you? Sorry, we're going to spend a bit on this first game. Did you see the horse interview about now after Dimmer retired, and that supposedly he's now the longest serving coach in the AFL?
I didn't see that. No.
It's as if he didn't want that. It's as if he didn't want the heat on him to like you're next to possibly go at some point. So he's gone. Interviewer's sort of gone. Do you know you're the longest serving coach? And he just goes, Chris Scott. And the guy's like, oh no, I think Chris Scott. It was a little bit later than you. He's like, yeah, but it was the same year as me. And just so stone cold too. Like, nah, same year as me though. He's like, oh, I think he started maybe 2 or 3 days after you. And Longmire was just like, mate, so we're the same. Let's just go with we're the same.
Yeah,
he really didn't want the mantle of being longest serving coach. It was quite an interesting interview. Anyways, we moved. Yeah, he'd be an interesting character in real life, I reckon. It'd be an interesting cat. This is the game I'm excited about. And I actually missed out. I had fully penciled in Fremantle and Melbourne to be the game I was going to watch on Saturday until my Hawks were up and about. Move over, Harley Reid. We don't care. We can't get you anymore. We're going to start winning. Let's go. So I was really impressed by the Hawks. I think I dropped a couple of messages. Look, I'm realistic to what's still going to happen this year, but they have unearthed some good young players, and that is what this has done. And a lot of people have come out this week going, we got it wrong. Sam Mitchell is a genius. That team, for as young as they are unearthing talent and starting to show that they can actually knock off a couple of decent footy teams as well, which is great to see. James Sicily, a massive 172. He's probably earned himself a week off, so why not? Dylan Moore back in the right scoring, underperforming this year based on the year that he had last year, but I think we all were pretty safe to know that he wasn't going to score the same as he did the year before with a 139, Impey a 112. Newcomb, we talked about him last week on the pod. Again, another consistent ton. And again, I like him. He gets the footy. He's classy. He tackles. He's starting to put it on the boot a little bit more and be a bit more efficient. So he's definitely on my list for 2024. Connor Nash, 88. Who else sort of stood at? Will Day, not his best game, although 30 touches, 74. From a St Kilda standpoint, Brad Crouch got the 104. We've talked about him many a time. Wanganeen Miller are 100. Rowan Marshall, 98. A few people went through the VC on him. That's probably the highest score the Hawks Rucks have given away this year. Other than maybe Griggs at one point, I think went all right. Other than that, not some massive scores. There's some disappointing scores in Sinclair only getting a 71, Steele only getting a 62. Some people still have Filippo with a 51, Caminetti with a 45.
Yep. Yuck. It was a good game of footy to watch. I don't like James Sicily and the way he goes about it, but that was an unreal game of footy from him. So hats off to you, mate. Well played. It was an unreal comeback win by Hawthorn too, just sitting there watching. It looked like it just a matter of time until St Kilda blew them out of the water with the way that they were running and carrying through Hawthorn's defence, as much as Hawthorn had the ball and were just missing early on. But that last quarter, they bounced around. And a few things went their way, and they came home with a real wet sail. So well done to them. Unfortunately, it is going to cost them Harley Reid, though, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of talk over West, over here in WA, that West Coast, and I don't think they will, but I don't mind the strategy, but I'm not trying to look at it from a Hawthorn approach, that they need to do more if they do end up with the number one pick, that they should look to move it. And the talk that was coming out of it was like a Hawthorn, who now has a lot of first-round picks, to go, do you go after a Tyler Brockman or a Granger Barras, who are both WA boys, on top of multiple first-round picks for that number one pick, which is something that Hawthorn, considering they're so young, would possibly entertain, depending on what the squad looks like. So a lot of talk about that over here in WA, that they need to fast-track this rebuild, and that one player is not enough. They need to start going after more picks and a couple of players. So, yeah.
What happened to Mitchell?
Seamus?
Seaman Mitchell.
I don't know. Did I miss something?
Yeah, apparently he got hurt.
I missed it. Totally missed it. Okay.
I'll have to get back
I'll go and have a look. I'll go and have a look. I'll check that out. Did you want to ask me? You were talking about Will Day after the game. What's going on
So
with
Will
Will Day?
Day, 30 touches. Why was it only 74? What was going on there?
Yeah, look. Yeah, a lot of people talked about Will Day on the chopping block for their teams. I think it was you who we talked a lot about Cornelio and whether he should get moved on early on and things like that. But for me, if somebody's still getting 30 touches, what he was doing is he wasn't as effective by hand, and that's when you stuff up a few handballs, that's never good. But kicking-wise, he was still getting a couple out of the pack and just sort of kicking them, and our forwards were bringing them to ground, but it was a turnover to the opposition. So, look, he's a hold for me. At absolute worst, if he moves to D6, you've got a guy playing in the midfield, getting touches. He'll turn this around. I don't have too many concerns with him. I wouldn't be moving him on unless you're in that fantastic top 1% and those scores aren't good enough. Yeah.
I've got him. So you'd agree that you'd hold?
Oh, I'm holding him. I'm happy with him. There's other things I've got to fix before that. The guy's still getting his hands on the footy. I rate him. I think he's classy. He's only, a 21-year-old as well. He's going fine. He'll be all good.
Okay. We
move on. This was the game I missed. So I'm hoping you watched a little bit. I got a lot of commentary from my mate here in WA. Fremantle doing the job against Melbourne, getting over the line by 7 points. My boy Petrarca with a lovely 122, playing with a no Oliver side. Sparrow obviously getting a little bit more time with a 109, Grundy with a 101, Gawn with a 98, Salem with an 88. I know a lot of people are starting to think about whether he's one they might bring into their side. From a Fremantle perspective, Andy Brayshaw with a 127, James Aish with a 109, Hayden Young with a 103, Jai Miss with a 95, Caleb Sarong still a decent score with a 93, and then your Ryans and your Coxes with 91 and 90. Luke Jackson is the one that I want to sort of talk about. He popped up with a 106 with Sean Darcy going down with a hamstring in that game. It's come out that he's got no sort of timeline for return. But Luke Jackson in the last 4 weeks, 126, 119, 81 and a 106 against the double-headed dragon of Gawn and Grundy in Melbourne. He's starting to actually tell the papers and the journos at the start of the year to shut up. This guy has talent and probably gives Fremantle a little bit of thinking about their future. What do you reckon?
He was good. From what I saw, on the weekend, I didn't watch the whole game, probably 3/4 of it. He more than held his own against Gawn and Grundy, and I think he probably did have that little bit of chip on the shoulder, so to speak, coming from his old club. He's copped a bit of stick for leaving to go home. Probably not on a Jason Horne-Francis level, but still, you're always going to cop it against your old club, aren't you? But and if Darcy misses, he's two. I don't think it's going to be any more than 2 games. They've got a bye, and then I think they've got a game. I don't think they need to sweat because he's more than capable. There was one game last year where he played without Gawn and was a lone ruckman and scored 141. So if that happens, it might be a pod that you bring in for now, and you've just smashed out some numbers with Darcy in the side. So he could be a nice little pod towards the back end of the year.
It's going to be an interesting one to see. As you said, they've got the bye, and then I reckon it gives you a bit of an opportunity to have a look at what you do with Darcy, give him another week. You feel a bit confident about it. It'll be interesting to see who they bring in. My mindset thinks that they'll bring in Taberner into that forward line instead of bringing in. I know they have a younger ruck on their list, but I don't think he's ready to go. It'd be interesting to see if Tabs can get back in that side and play as the forward second ruck with Jackson in there, or if there's other options of what they do, which will give them a little bit of a talking point because there's a lot of news over here of Sean Darcy possibly wanting to go back to Geelong, and whether Fremantle maybe cash in on a little bit of currency there. At the same time, with the people who know, I think they still think that they're in a premiership window over the next couple of years, and the Darcy-Jackson combination is what they want, and Darcy seems pretty happy to stay. So it will be interesting to see. Fife with a 67. I know he's on a lot of people's radars still.
He's only on yours? 244,000 right now. For someone that's at 244,000, which is almost rookie price, was it his first or second game without being the sub? He's now match fit. Second. He's now match fit. He's got a manageable break even now. he's nearly worth looking at for some cheeky cash gen. Like 20 touches and 60 odd points. With 5, another game that could easily turn into 85, 90. That could then turn into 100. We know in previous years that he is a consistent 100-point scorer when he's up and about. So, yeah, he's definitely on my watch list.
He's the one. It's interesting, and I'm assuming it's because he has the buy that they don't have his break even written on there, and I'm assuming it will happen after this week. He's one of those ones where you don't need the 100 from him. If you're going to bring him in through the buy rounds from the second week of buys onwards, if he can get you 80s for four or 5 weeks, you'll take that. And I think for some of us who are kind of now having to go, I got to take some risks because I don't have the perfect drop one, downgrade one, upgrade one kind of thing to a perfect primo because of some players not performing the way that we wanted. He's one that you might have to take a little bit of a look at. And Fremantle are in a position now where they need to win games. They can't really manage players. So, he's definitely on the radar for me as somebody that might come in knowing I'll get him for every round, every week of the rest of the bye rounds. He's
just played the last 4 games. He had 10 touches, 6 touches as sub, and then he's gone 17 touches, 20 touches. And it looks like, I'm just guessing here, but his break-even's around about 45 now.
Yep, I reckon he's cherry ripe to possibly come in, I reckon.
Yeah.
Just depends on everyone's makeup. One of the biggest... Yeah, you're right.
No, you go. Sorry.
Well, one of the biggest surprises of the round, and there were plenty of upsets, Geelong at GMHBA got done by the Giants. I've heard that we must refer to them as Toby Green and the Giants now. It's like they're a little bit of a band now. So that's what I'm hearing. He was phenomenal again with a 121. I do like this Iden down the back line. 111. Lockie Ash with a 110. The one who's stepping up is your country boy, Daniels. He's starting to actually really find his game, and I think he's getting some confidence in himself. And when he's up and about, he's good, really good.
I was laughed at when I said that he could average 75 this year, but he's playing some really good footy at the moment.
Yeah. I missed that one. I'm going to go off script a little bit. Not that we have a script, but I just wanted to make it sound professional there for a second. Yeah, mate, you're not far. He's gone up 182,000 this year. So he must have been originally priced at
about 170,000.
191. 191 he started at, and he's currently sitting on a 5-round average of 76.4, a 3-round average of 86.7. He's currently averaging 77. Look, now, would have you forever held him from the start? Probably not. But, look, that's he's gone 78, 56, 77, 86, 91, 59, 63, 46. Sadly, probably people would have started to drop him there after he went 59, 63. And then he's gone 2 tons against St Kilda and Geelong. Good on him. Good on him. Love that. Great. That's good.
I want to ask you about Briggs, Kieran Briggs, the ruckman.
Yep.
Yeah, he looks good.
Mate, I mentioned him. I said when everybody started looking at Luke McAndrews. When everyone started talking about him, I was like, hold on. I was like, I know it's a bigger price tag, but for 254,000, he looked really good. And they're clearly looking to make that move. He got a 109 playing against Rowan Marshall, and now he's just pulled out a 102 now, albeit against Geelong. But he looks good. He looks really good. And one that people could take a ginormous risk on, I guess. I don't know. But it's hard. Like, you're not going to drop English or Marshall to bring him in. I mean, I might have to do but look, I don't want to bring in someone and put him on my bench because I've got Bryn Tickle sitting there still, but Scott Lycett looks like he's going to hold his spot now. Not sure. It's a tough call.
Yeah, it is. I want to see some job security. I want to hear the coach come out and say, "Yep, he's our ruckman for now. We're sticking with him." So
yeah, he's our guy for the rest of the year. That's what you want to hear. You're spot on.
Yeah, that's what you want to hear. But for now, 250. Am I going to drop Sean Darcy for him? Probably not.
That was going to be my next question. If you've got Sean Darcy, though, is that the play to make, albeit for possibly 2 weeks? You know, I'm talking about the teams. I'm talking about the teams who are now top 1%, maybe top 5%, and you go, here's the guy that I'm going to bring in now for. I'm making sure they're definitely playing, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they don't have a buy. You bring him in, get a bit of cash, get some score. Albeit he could still possibly go to the bench and you move someone else on and you make a move. I don't think it's a bad shout.
So they have still 4 games till the bye. So they've got the last of the buys.
If I'm a top 1%er and I've now got the 3 trades for this buy round, he's coming in. Let's be clear. I'll clear that up again. If I'm in the top 1%, 5%, and I've got Sean Darcy, he's coming in.
You have to.
I might even, you know what? I might even look at doing it for Tickle because I need some more cash. Tickle's and Tickle's not generating me cash now. I got the money out of him that I needed. I got a little bit. I got 50K. It's not the end of the world. I wanted him to play 4 games and I would have got my 100K, but I got 50K out of him. You move him now. It's a straight swap and you get some cash. I don't mind that.
Well, yeah, I did have a little play with the trade generator today, and I could bring in Briggs, and if I traded out Sean Darcy, that would leave me enough money to bring in a Zach Merritt type player. So we'll have to just wait and see. I'm playing catch up as well.
We're digressing into the wrong show here, but that's all right. That's fine. It's our show. We'll do whatever we want. Right. If you do the math and you do a straight move from Tickle to him, even in 1 week, you've made yourself like 60K straight away, like in 1 week. Like, yeah, okay, I'm going to have to look at that. I think I might have to use my 3 trades this week. Whoopsies. Okay. Anyways, we get back into the scores. We didn't talk about Geelong scores. Tom Stewart, 138. Blickvasser, 114. Graham Myers, a 91. Trying to see who else is Supercoach relevant. Jezza Cameron back in with a 80. I really hope, and you were thinking about it, and I'm going to assume you didn't because I know you got a decent score. You didn't put the C on or the VC on Tom Hawkins, did you?
No.
Okay. 35 for the Tomahawk.
Thank Christ. He was bloody horrible.
What was the other one you were looking at? We want to make sure we stay relevant. Lockie Whitfield still put up an 84. He was looking good early too. He had his hands all over it early on, so they must have done a bit of a job on him after that. But, yeah, they closed up. Anyways, we move on to another one of the upsets. Gold Coast versus the Western Bulldogs up in Darwin. Mm-hmm. And Matt Rao, 159, massive score. Jared Witt's a 135, Holman a 118. Lukosius kicking a few bags up forward. Interesting player, 105. Noah Anderson, relevant, 92. Humphrey brought him in this week with a 90, so he's still getting the scores. And did you see his goal? He's a vibrant young little bloke, isn't he? He's definitely up and about at the moment, which is great. We want characters. Rory Atkins, though, with a 28 was very disappointing to a few of us and subbed off. So who knows? Stewie Jew loves moving the magnets, so we'll see what happens there. I think probably the most talked about name this week will be McRae with a 145 and getting that DPP status now. Bontempelli a 124, Caleb Daniel 117, Bailey Dale 108, Liam Jones 106, English 105. Liberatoria had a slightly off game with an 80. Lucky I didn't bring in Bailey Smith. He only had a 61.
Is that all? Wow. This is one of the games that I actually did tip the upset for, even though my tips did look pretty ordinary this week. The grass-fed cow himself in Real was awesome, wasn't he? He was just everywhere. 159. Lukosius, he's definitely playing a nice little role up forward. They had a stat in the second quarter. I think he kicked nearly all of the goals in that second quarter. But at one stage, he had 3 goals for 3 touches for 6 metres gained. And his Supercoach score was 50. So you just see how the Supercoach guides can make you look really good, even though you've done next to F all. You know, when he's kicking goals from the goal square. But I really like this Humphrey fella. He's a powerfully built 18-year-old. He knows how to find the footy. He uses it well. They love him up there. It's almost like the Took Miller injury has just given Stewie Dew a license to just go, here you go, mate. Have a crack, see how you go. And you know what? They're on a nice little win streak at the moment. And I did call at the start of the season they could potentially play finals. And, I'm not going to back down from that. I think they've got a pretty favourable draw coming up. I think they still need a few things to go their way, but, they're just as well set as ever to be able to break that hoodoo of not being able to play finals before. So,
absolutely. He's still got a break even of 11 going into this week. And even with a projected score of 74, all right, that's a reasonable projection. It's not too bad. He still goes up another 28.5K. So, laughing. West Coast versus Essendon, your boys. Did you watch them play against the Kingsley under-12s or no?
Nah. I was flicking between, but with the Gold Coast Western Bulldogs game going on, that was much more exciting to watch. So I stuck with that one. It's nice to see that we're in the 8, but you know what? We got West Coast last week. We've got North Melbourne this week, which, you never know which North Melbourne are going to turn up. So hopefully that's a good game this week. But yeah, we're doing okay. I don't think that we're top 4, top 6 quality, but if we make the 8, great. If not, Scott has openly said that he's got a bigger plan in mind, but it's actually nice to see that he's got that bigger plan, but still wants us to win, and he's still making moves in order for us to win. So,
remind me again, what did Peter Wright do? Remind me again.
Dislocated shoulder.
So how long's he out for? It can't be too long yet.
So he had surgery. They said 12 weeks because it happened just before the start of round 1.
Okay.
And
it's a massive hit. No, excuse the literal pun, but it's a massive player who comes in, and what they're doing without him is good to see. So, from a Supercoach relevance point, Redmond 144, Ridley 130, Martin 120, Merritt 110, McGrath 107, and Stringer 105. Draper's having a much improved year with a 98. Hobbs with a 75. I know a lot of people sort of had him on the radar.
He did get DPP as well, but we'll talk about that later.
He did. Shannon Hearn with a 130, Hunt with a 126, Duggan with a 117, Tim Kelly with a 95. Let's be honest, who cares? If you've got West Coast Eagles players, get rid of them. Jimby with an 81, Yo back in the side with a 73. Supposedly Tom Barrass, I think, started in the forward line to start the game, and I think they moved him pretty quickly doon to the back line, but that was an interesting one. Right. Surely Sportsbet had a cheeky look at who was betting on Tom Barrass for first goal. Have a little quick look at the inside word there. But, not too much there. Let's be honest, West Coast have become irrelevant.
Yes, sir.
From a Richmond-Port Adelaide game, absolute. It was I say like a cracker. It was a good game. I mean, obviously some poor kicking up forward. It was interesting to see how Richmond were going to bounce back after the huge news of Dimmer retiring or standing down. Tim Taranto, career best with his career matching, I think 4 goals or maybe 5 goals. I could be wrong. Huge 147. Yeah. Shai Bolton 120, and Curvis, we've talked about him many a time. I tell you what a year that he's had with a 119, Broad with a 108, Short with a 103. Not too much else on that side. Ryan ended up getting subbed, so it's interesting to have a look at the new coach and what his philosophies are there. So Ryan getting subbed, I think the time for him is now to move him on if you haven't already. Houston with a 114. What was it? I heard a quote. He was technically on Shai Bolton, but they called it the Nick Dacos Defensive School, the school of Nick Dacos Defense, which was like nowhere near Shai Bolton, but just off getting touches. Rosie with a 111, Scott Lysett with a 107, and Butters with a 104, and then your boy Ollie Wines with a 95.
Yeah, I watched this game too, and it was considerably frustrating to see Ollie Wines planted on the wing in the last 15 minutes of the game. When the game's there to be won, it started to rain. one of your best wet weather footballers and he's stuck out in the wing. Yeah, not happy, Jan. But you know what? It is what it is.
He's just not a winger either. It's probably you're probably the same as me, and I know a lot of like diehard footy fans are the same. When it comes to the All-Australian team, don't just pick midfielders and put them out on the wing. You need to pick specifically the best two wingers of the year because it is a very different position to just being a midfielder.
Yeah. If you watch Ollie Wines run, like he's not an athlete. He runs like he's got a bag of dim sims underneath each arm, you know? So when we're talking about this, you put someone on a wing that can run both ways, you know, not a plotter. So like it still baffles me why he was out there, but he's on the ground at least. And you know what? A 95 playing out of position for half the game, I'll take that every day of the week. I will, however, very interested to see how Taranto polls at the end of the year. In a side that's been losing, he's consistently been getting over 30 touches. And even though he hasn't been ultra good with his disposal efficiency, he's been getting a lot of the ball. And if not, 80% of the games that Richmond have played, he has been their best player. So, yeah.
Yep, it's a fair call. It's a fair call. Yeah, it's a fair call. I'm intrigued to see where Richmond go in this next journey. I think they've still got the cattle. It's not a rebuild, but they need Tom Lynch back. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Then really intrigued to see how they build this side next. I think it's a club that people would want to go to. They got Hopper to still come back into that side as well. I think the dynasty is over in the way of the Dimmer, with Dusty and Cochin and things like that. But I don't. Yep. It wouldn't shock me if this team could actually rebuild themselves with a few players just coming into the side. I watch this space, dare I say. Mm-hmm. Collingwood, North Melbourne. DeGoey and Petrarca are like the same player, in my opinion. You come up against a weaker side and you could bet your house on them. They're going to have an absolute rip snorter. And he did 156. Nick Dacos got himself a 124. Pendlebury's 119. Josh Dacos, 111. Still enjoying his game. He flies under the radar as just the second brother now. But he can play. He can play. Don't disregard him. Quaynar with a 105. Tom Mitchell, again, having probably the most under the radar season ever, but doing exactly what they want from him with a 102. Darcy Moore, we talked about him last week. He has hit another ripper with 93. Unfortunately, Mr. 300, still side bottom, got subbed off with an injury early, but what an absolute ripper of a career. Even as a non-Collingwood fan, I can still sit back and say I enjoy watching Steele Sidebottom and how he goes about it. And still playing good footy. From a North Melbourne perspective, there wasn't too much to love. Goldstein with a 119. Hugh Greenwood just gets every ounce of talent out of him that he possibly can with effort, 116. But there's a few to like in their younger brigade. So Will Phillips stepped up and had probably one of the best games of his career. Supercoach wise, got him a 99, but absolute great game. And I want to say Bailey Scott. Yes, Bailey Scott. Really impressed with him the last 2 weeks. So he had a tagging role last week, saw him get 30-odd touches. And again, coming out with another great game with a 95. Dry Simpkin just starting to look like they're Captain Courageous there with an 89. Ford is definitely the one, I think, on everybody's radar now with an 83.
For sure. If you're watching this, Brett Ratton, please drop Aaron Hall. He's a spud. We do not care for him. Put Sheasel back and just leave him alone. Yours sincerely, the Insight Fantasy Sports Team.
And not even from a super coach standpoint, but just from a general play standpoint or development standpoint. Like, get rid of him. No need for him. We want Spuds put back at Spud Shed in the bucket and let the players play. Bring on the Cheezel.
You know what? You could offer me a bag of salt and vinegar chips and I'd take that for him in a trade, even though he's barely worth that. Just get rid of him. He doesn't fit your timeline. You're stunting some players' growth. Just get him out. George Wardlaw, get around him.
Wardlaw looks good. Wardlaw looks really good. I like that. Great call. Adelaide, Brisbane, we saved the best for last. It got a little bit away in the end. Adelaide getting up by 17 points. Brisbane couldn't find the big sticks with a 10-18 scoreline for them. Some big scores here. We knew there would be some big scores. A little bit risky of whether you were going to hold out on the captaincy because you didn't know who was going to be the scorer, but everybody seemed to find a little bit of the footy. O'Brien with a 124, Dawson with a 120. He looked really good. Rankin 119, Rory Laird a 115, but cited by the MIRO. Ben Keys a 102. Worrell and Scholl both got a ton. Just trying to see anyone else there. Not really. Dunkley starting to find those bigger scores now with a 146. Lockie Neal with a 122. It's always nice when you see your highlighted players right up in the top four. It just makes you a little bit enjoyable. Oscar McInerney with a 112. So the rucks were just tapping and handballing to each other all game. Bailey with a 97. Daniel Rich back in the side with a 90. And that was about it. Ashcroft, a bit of a weaker game with only a 52, but I still rate him. He's going to be a good player. And Wilmot with a very quiet 29.
Yeah. I saw the replay of this Laird incident. Neil had both his arms free, like albeit one was holding on the ball and the other one was there. And he just sort of leant into the ground with his head. You could see him throw his head towards the ground. So I really hope that Laird gets off because if you start seeing people suspended for that, who's going to win the Brownlow medal? Aaron Hall?
Mate,
come on.
Here,
no one's going to be left.
My opinion is this, and I don't know if anyone's willing to come out and say it yet, but our game is about to turn into hold tackle. So when I first moved over from Victoria to WA, in Victoria when I grew up, it was full tackle from the moment I went down a Vic kick. We learned how to play footy and it was full tackle. I'll never forget coming to WA and I got told it's only bump. And I remember turning to my dad. I was about 9 years old. I'm like, this is a joke. I'm just going to get the footy. I'm just going to run from end to end, which I did. Then the next development was what they called a hold tackle. So all you can do is grab him and hold him. You can't bring him to the ground. That is what we are getting to because no player is going to take the chance of possibly bringing a player to the ground because if their head hits the ground, they're all looked at. There's a very big difference between a lift and a dump, like we see in the NRL, a full vicious sling around and drive them into the ground compared to just, I've got a guy who's 6'2", 90 kilos running at me in a different motion to the direction that I'm going. I grab him, have to try and stop him because if I don't, you just call play on and off he goes. But because his head hits the ground, I'm gone. The tackle is going to become dead just like the bump. The bump I understand, the tackle I do not. This needs to be looked at before our game goes to shit.
I agree. There's nothing more I need to add there.
I just look, I don't want to sound like one of those older guys now that's going, oh, when footy was played back in the day, we were all tough. Anyone who steps on a football field is tough. But if we just go into this motion of you must only hold them, it's not going to be a game we want to watch as much. I know we need to protect players. I know we need to protect heads. I know we want to make sure that mum and dads want to put their kids in to play AFL football without a guaranteed chance they're going to get hurt. But we have to make sure certain things need to stay. And for me, the tackle is one. And we have to make that differentiation between an unfortunate accident and somebody doing the wrong thing that resulted in somebody getting hurt. That's the big thing for me.
Just got a tweet through the Adelaide Footy Club that I've been tagged in. Adelaide Footy Club will challenge Rory Laird's one-match ban at the tribunal tomorrow night. Neil, for the second time this year, had one arm free and could have protected himself. Tribunal will need to decide if Neil was flopping. More on 9 News soon.
Good. I mean, that'll be the big one. The big one will be the opportunity to protect himself. But the other one for me is still to just look at the motion itself. So you've played footy. A lot of everyone who I'm sure listening on played footy. There's a time and a place where you know that you've got both their arms and that dump turns or you sling. There's a lot of time where you just grab them and you're trying to stop the momentum. I don't know if I've got both his arms or what I'm trying to do. Like, you're just trying to stop them and tackle them. But, yeah, anyways, I think I've said enough about it. That's my take.
Yep.
Anyways, We move on. I think it was an awesome round. I think there were some massive scores out there. My boys weren't too fantastic this year, but I'm really excited for getting into the bye rounds and making some moves. We're going to jump in and we're going to do another podcast very quickly. I think we're going to film it actually after this one about DPPs, really talking about the bye rounds and getting everybody set up. In regards to round 11, mate, any final word from yourself?
No, nothing from myself in regards to the footy. A couple of things, though. Shout out to our sponsors, Snap Fitness, who did win the Snap Fitness franchise of the year. So congratulations to Bendigo and Epsom Snap Fitness, and to Mark and Emma, congratulations. And they also won Manager of the Year as well for the Snap Fitness Australia. So congratulations to them. But on a sadder note,
that's hot.
To my mates, Nico, who lost his dad yesterday, mate, my thoughts and wishes are with your family. Nico's dad, Mick, was a big part of my life growing up. So to Cheryl, Nico, Chriso, and the family, it's a tough time, mate, but you'll get through it. Best wishes from us at the Insight Fantasy Sports team.
Great call, mate, and very good shout out. And I think on that note, we will wrap things up. Everyone, thank you so much for listening along. We love what we do. We love bringing you as much content as we can, and we look forward to bringing you more. This has been the Insight Fantasy Sport Podcast. Peace out.
See ya.